We are what? We are who? We are what? Vibrant. We are who? 50 plus. Hi, welcome to Gray Lives on the Rise. I am your host, Professor Jamila Franklin, and we are coming to you from Oyende Enterprises, being sponsored by Jamila Sense, which is our product line of aromatherapy products that helps heal the mind, body, and soul. And we are bringing to you Alamaj's Rebirthing Program, as well as Jamila Sense, and a host of wonderful programs that will help heal your body, heal your soul, and heal your mind. 50 plus people, we are here to stay. Gray Lives on the Rise. We are what? We are who? We are vibrant, and we are here to stay. Join us for our wonderful episodes. Thank you, and continue to look for our episodes weekly, being brought to you again from Oyende Enterprises and Jamila Sense. See you soon. Everyone, this is Professor Jamila Franklin. We are here again with Gray Lives on the Rise. I am your host, and we are having today the wonderful, beautiful Angela Greene, and we're going to talk about her wonderful project, and you're going to be so impressed and amazed like I was. So what we're going to do first, though, is just give you some background information about who I am and how this came to be. I'm Professor Jamila Franklin, and Gray Lives on the Rise came to me about 2 years ago. As a matter of fact, we've just completed our 100th episode. So we're going into a new season, but I was walking about 2 years ago, and then this download came to me that said there's nothing out there that addresses the issues and the needs of people who are 50 plus. And I thought about it, and I said, yeah, that's true. And so as I was walking and talking to myself, it said, you need to have several things. You need to have people relanguage how they look at themselves, because the only two things out there in America are AARP and Medicare. And both of those things are wonderful, but I'm not actively involved in either one. So the other thing was we have to look at how you talk about yourselves, because you're not elderly, you're not over the hill, you're vibrant, you're seasoned, you're mature, and you are alive, and you have a lot going on. So I said, yeah, that's true too. So then what happened was that other things came up, like, okay, we need a name for the movement, because this is a movement. And I said, okay, Gray Lives Matter. Then I said, no, that's really cliche-ish. Let's have something that is more vibrant. So Gray Lives on the Rise came into my consciousness. And so here we are, Gray Lives on the Rise. Lives rhymes with rise. You don't have to have gray hair. You don't have to have a period. Just, it's a consciousness. The other thing is about, we had to have a store to market our merchandise. And so I have on the shirt, Gray Lives on the Rise. We have t-shirts, mugs, but Angela has ordered her mug. So we have tote bags, we have floor mats, we have an array of wonderful products that you, the listening audience, need to go to our store to check out. The last thing was the podcast. We've had people who are 50 plus from all over the world, from Haiti, the Philippines, the UK, Canada, Australia, the Netherlands, New Zealand, the United Arab Emirates, where's so many countries, I can't remember all of them. And of course, America. We've had at least 10 or more people from different countries come on to talk about issues that relate to them. And even though they're in different countries, they have a similar concern. When you're 50 plus, people tend to gaslight you or dismiss you or ignore you. And they think that you're like a relic and you have no importance nor relevance, really. And that isn't true. And in my talking to people around the world, that was a common concern. And say, yeah, Jamila, here over in The Netherlands is the same thing, and New Zealand is the same thing. It's in Canada and Australia. I said, wow, okay. And we have men and women. It's multiracial, multi-ethnic, and we have people who have been so committed to visiting us on Sunday. So we are so happy that we're going into our new season. And this is our 101 episode with the dynamic Miss Angela Greene. But before I get into that, I'm just going to tell you that the product, my company, I have several companies, but the company that is supporting this and paying for this is Jamila Scents, and it's my aromatherapy company, and it's all natural, and it's amazing. The number one seller is Peace Be Still. You see how transparent it is. Peace Be Still, which gets rid of flies, mosquitoes, migraine headaches, sinus congestion, sinus headaches, menopausal issues, postmenopausal issues, stress, PTSD, any stress it gets rid of. Plus, like I said, the insects, you don't take it by mouth. You just put it in the palms of your hands, rub your hands together, you breathe it, and it's like, wow. It's just amazing. And then you rub it on your arms. It gets in your body within 5 to 10 minutes, and it stays in your body for up to 10 hours. And it's 75 to 100 times more powerful than a dried herb or vitamin because it's all a liquid. So go to our website. I'm Professor Jamila Franklin. I'm a certified aromatherapist, a college professor of psychology. I have my own clinical practice, and I've had it for over 30 years. And I am also an award-winning author, and I do some other things too. But go to my website, Oyinde, Oyinde Enterprises, ENTERPRISES.com, and you will see Jamila Scents, you will see my other companies, and you will see Gray Lives on the Rise. That's our latest baby. You click on it, you see everything about Gray Lives and our podcasts, and you'll see previous podcasts and episodes, which are amazing. So you will be very, very pleased and very happy that you did that. So when you go to our Gray Lives on the Rise, click on subscribe and like so you would never miss an episode. And we air the episodes on Sunday, but they're recorded and you can look at them at any time that you may wish. Right? So now, having done that, I was having some computer issues earlier. Mercury is retrograde. So when Mercury is retrograde, things go crazy. But with the computers, with communication, with your car, if you had car issues or whatever, it's because Mercury is in retrograde. And it just means for you to rest, relax, and recuperate rather than scurrying around and all that. Right? Okay, so now tonight, we're going to talk about Miss Greene's amazing background. A highlight of Angela's career came in 2023 when she was named a member of Black Women in Radio's distinguished class of the inaugural 30, which includes local and national air talents whose careers are archived in the Library of Congress. Angela is also a member of the African American Civil Rights Caucus for the Radio Preservation Task Force. She is also the author of Unnecessary Roughness, the story of a mother's fight for justice, which is archived in the Mississippi Department of Archives and History. Angela is also a member of the Atlanta Association of Black Journalists. Legalized Extortion, how the government hunted Black doctors for treating poor and elderly Medicaid patients, accompanies the documentary by the same name, which is in production. Angela wrote this book for several reasons: to advocate on behalf of doctors, to educate the public about the disappearance of Black doctors, and to share how the removal of Black doctors leaves the health of the Black community in grave danger. It is so true.
Yes, it is. Absolutely.
Okay. This jumped. Angela Greene is a media professional, largely in radio broadcast and print environments. 2026 marks her 40-year anniversary in the media. She lives in Atlanta, Georgia. She has a bachelor's degree in English and a master's degree in administration of justice and security. Her professional career in great journalism began at the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, where she, when she was still in college, where she simultaneously wrote for her college newspapers and worked as an on-air talent. She also has published work in other publications like the Huff Post, the Gwinnett Citizen, and Odyssey Atlanta. Angela has a wealth of on-air experience in Atlanta radio, but she has also been a producer. Presently, she is the host of the award-winning Jazz Flavors on WPGN Radio Atlanta, where she won the Larry Tinsley Broadcast Award for Radio Show of the Year in 2024. She has also been a YouTube, she also has a YouTube podcast called Conversations with Angela. Okay, so thank you so much, Miss Greene.
Yes,
I am
thank
so
you.
honored to have this opportunity to see you on Zoom and to have this conversation. Now, I have a small picture of me in the corner and a large picture of you because, like I told you, Mercury's retrograde. So I'm not sure if you see a large picture of me or
I
not.
do. I
Oh, you do?
do.
Okay. My computer is menopausal, Angela. She's doing whatever she wants to do, and I have to let her do what she wants to do. Okay, otherwise, it shut us off. She's having a hot flash, so we're just gonna roll with her. Roll with her. I am so impressed with you. We share a friend, the Honorable Reverend D, and I am so impressed. Whenever, shift my glasses now. When Reverend D brings me people, I don't question it because I know she has vetted the person and her reputation is impeccable.
Yes,
And your reputation and your background is impeccable. I'm so impressed.
thank you.
Thank you, Angela, for being a guest today on our
Thank
show.
you so much for having me.
Yeah, thank you for your patience. And we're going to jump in and have a conversation like we've been old girlfriends for a minute, okay? We're just gonna
Okay.
So I am so impressed with the fact that you took the step to step out there courageously to expose this industry. My background is in medical education in a way because I was in charge of multicultural affairs at Harvard Medical School for 6.5 years. So I know some of the things that they've done, that they continue to do. So I applaud you, my dear sister, for coming out and exposing it because it needs to be told. Because there are people now who think that there are no disparities, that
Oh,
we're just being hypersensitive, that we're making things up, even though they know about things like the Tuskegee study and Henrietta Lacks, I think that's
relax. Yes. Mm-hmm.
and other things. And like the sister back in the 1800s, I think 1830, I've forgotten her first name, who was from the continent, and she had a very well endowed derriere, and they put her in the circus
Mm-hmm.
to put her on display. And
Yes.
then what they used to do to Black women, not give them anesthesia when they were
Yes.
giving birth. I mean, just crazy things.
Yes.
So, oh, we could be here for days. I'm just so impressed. What interested you to pursue this much needed topic?
Well, on the one hand, I like to say that it kind of fell in my lap, but I think that it came to me because I was just the person to do this. I first heard about what was happening with Black doctors when I was working in an attorney's office, and she was representing a doctor who was suing Wellstar Hospital. And the next day, when I came into work, the phone rang off the hook, and it was like Groundhog Day. Every time I picked up the phone, it was another doctor from somewhere at some local hospital, and they were all explaining the same thing and saying the same exact thing. Hey, I need to talk to her. The same thing happened to me. Hey, I'm at such and such hospital. The same thing happened to me. This went on for hours, the whole day I was there. So this was the first time that I was alerted that there was something that was going on with Black doctors, even though I had no idea what it was at that time. And then about a year later, I happened to be working in the studio because I worked at WAOK Radio at the time. And this particular day, I was working in the studio on the show that I produced. I produced the midday show. And Dr. Norman Clement, called into the radio station and he said, you all need to do a story about why they keep putting all these Black doctors in prison. And I was like, and I thought, this sort of kind of reminds me of something I heard before, you know. So I told him, I took down his name and number and told him I would give him a call. And I did. I called him over the weekend and I was like, tell me about this story. So he begins to tell me about how thousands and thousands of doctors have been imprisoned for Medicaid fraud and or overprescribing. And so and
Mm-hmm.
so I'm beginning to learn, okay, what Medicaid for, because I don't know what any of this is. I have no idea what he's talking about. So I'm kind of learning as I'm going. I produced about maybe in the 2 years from that time, I produced about 10 radio shows on that topic. We started off with a series called The Criminalization of Black and Brown Doctors. And on the first show that we did, we had a panel of maybe 6 doctors that included some Black doctors. I think we had an Indian doctor, we had a Hispanic doctor who were all on that panel. And we let them come on and share their stories and talk about, what was happening to educate us. And each one of them had either been in prison or were on their way to prison for what was considered Medicaid fraud or overprescribing. So the overprescribing was um, mostly relegated to pain doctors who treated people who had significant pain conditions like sickle cell or sarcoidosis, people who absolutely could not live without pain medicine. So what they were in effect doing was accusing doctors of starting the opiate crisis, saying that doctors were responsible for the opiate crisis, which of
Mm-hmm.
course would not be true
Yes.
because the same opiates that you get from your doctor is not what you're going to get on the street corner. In fact,
Mm-hmm.
it's when you cannot get it from your doctor that you resort to going to a street corner. But somehow the doctors who treated pain patients were being associated with the opiate crisis. Then I
Mm-hmm.
started learning more about the Medicaid fraud. And so most of the doctors were being taken out by Medicaid fraud, and this was by the DEA and the DOJ. They would come into a doctor's office and tell them that they were accused of Medicaid fraud, and the next thing they knew, they would hire an attorney. Unfortunately, most of them hired the wrong type of attorney because in these specific instances, you need a particular type of attorney, which is a healthcare law attorney, somebody who knows those nuances about healthcare law. And most of them would go out and just hire a regular defense attorney, which really couldn't help them. A defense attorney would have to learn the same things you or I would if we were representing them. They were just kind of giving their money away to somebody who really couldn't help them. And unfortunately, many of them found that out the hard way, when everything shook out. So we did this. I produced these shows from 2022 till 2024.
Mm-hmm.
And over that time, I had Black doctors, I had female doctors, I had white doctors, I had any doctor who called. Because after we did the first show, I was getting calls from doctors from all over the United States. I mean, my
Mm-hmm.
phone was ringing off the hook with doctors saying, hey, I heard about your show. Can I come on? I want to talk about what happened to me. So it just grew into this thing, where all these doctors were contacting me. So I'm beginning to realize at this point that this is really something that's bigger than I realized, when I first started. So we did the shows for the first year. After that, in 2023, I went to DC on behalf of Black women in radio because we were going there because our careers were being archived in the Library of Congress. But I also had a presentation to do the next day at the Library of Congress to the Radio Preservation Society, and I did a presentation on this very topic on, what the health of the Black community was going to look like without the erasure of Black doctors. And everybody is looking at me like I'm crazy because nobody knows what I'm talking about. They're like, what is she talking about? So my college roommate was there with me, and she was like, Angela, I think that this is going to be a really big story for you one day. And I'm like, really? You think so? And she was like, yeah, I think so. So after that, I was a part of a team. We came up with this team. We wrote this legislative bill called the Protection for American Medicine. We did this also. And I was the team lead. We presented this bill to Senator Warnock's office to no avail. Um, they gave us the permission to present the bill to them, and then we presented and never heard anything else from them. So then in 2024, at the end of 2024, I just happened to be working in the studio one day and I was talking to a colleague and I said, you know what? I don't know what else to do, to try to help these doctors. I thought that the bill would help. I thought, going to DC, telling people about it would help. I said, but nothing seems to be helping. I said, maybe I should, think about doing a documentary. And so he was like, yeah, we should do it. We could do this and this and this. And he was way, way ahead of me because I was just really thinking about it, but I wasn't really serious because I didn't know how to make a documentary. I have no idea how to make a documentary. I was just trying to think of the next thing that I could do. So after that, this was in December of 2024. So starting in January 2024, I started getting these distinct messages from God every day, all day, when I was
Wow.
awake, when I was asleep, when I was in the shower,
Yes.
no matter what I was doing, all I was hearing was, Angela, you need to get started on the documentary. Angela, I mean, it was like a broken record. I couldn't, it just wouldn't stop. And I was like, why does God keep telling me to do this? He knows I don't know how to make a documentary. He knows this. What is he telling me to do? And this went on and on and on. So finally, I broke down one day in Best Buy and I called my colleague and I said, do you remember when I mentioned that I wanted to do this documentary? And he was like, yeah. And I said, well, this voice is just haunting me. I got to turn this off. I said, what kind of camera do I need for my computer? So he tells me the kind of camera to get. I get the camera and it stops. And we started in May of last year recording the interviews because I did not know what I was doing. I had no idea, none. So he said, well, okay, well, let's just start doing the interviews on Zoom. We'll just start doing the Zoom interviews. So he was like, when we finish, then, maybe we can make a YouTube channel or something and we can just put them on YouTube. I'm like, okay, fine, whatever it takes so that I'm not hearing this voice in
Those
my ear
voices. I
anymore.
know.
Long
I
as I can
know.
keep that turned off because it was not going away.
Yeah.
So halfway through the process, around the end of June, one of the doctors keeps saying, Angela, I need to introduce you to Dr. Barbara Reynolds. You need to know who Barbara Reynolds is. And so he tries to connect us. I'm calling her. She's calling me. We're constantly missing each other. And I say to him, I keep trying to reach her, but I'm not getting her. So one day my phone rings and it's her. And she says, Angela, my name is Barbara Reynolds. She said, I understand that you're working on the doctor story. And I said, yes, I am. She said, I have been waiting for you for 20 years. I have been waiting for somebody else to care about what has been happening to our Black doctors. She said, I did this story 30 to 40 years ago when I was at USA Today. She said they maybe let me print maybe two or three stories. She said, but after that, they didn't let me print anymore. She said, but I kept getting all these leads on these stories and I kept following the leads. She said, so I connected with someone who had a local, like a community newspaper, just so that I could print the stories in the community paper. And she said, I traveled all around the United States interviewing all of these doctors for these stories. And she said, the more I interviewed, the more I kept finding out what was happening. She said, I kept 2 boxes of all of my interviews and all of my archive material
Oh,
that now
wow.
belong to you. She said,
Oh,
I was ahead of my time when I was trying to do this
yeah.
stuff, but I believe you are right on time. She said, and everything in me is telling me that those boxes belong to you. So I'm shocked, because I never dreamed that, this was going to happen. So my college roommate who lived near her, about 20 minutes away from her, goes to her house, picks up the boxes, and sends the boxes to me. So I get the boxes around the end of July. It was around this time last year that I got the boxes. And I started going through the boxes, and it was filled with all of these folders that were just filled with all of this information. Some of them had hard copy interviews in them. Some of them just had a lot of government documents, just had a lot of stuff. So I'm coming home from work every day and just reading all this stuff. I'm just going through these interviews, and I come across this one interview. And this interview says, it's from an interview that she did with a man named Donald Zarandow. And I'm just kind of scanning through the interview and I'm looking at it and I'm like, I put in the corner, start here, because there was enough information in there for me to know that this was a good place for me to start with trying to piece together what happened. So as I'm reading and reading and reading and going through all this stuff, I go back to that interview after we finished doing the interviews for the documentary. I
Mhm.
realized then my partner had to leave because he had to take another job, so he wasn't with me anymore. And again, I don't know how to do a documentary, so I have all these interviews that I'm still holding that I haven't done anything with. So I said, well, I know what. Why don't I just go ahead and write the book? I can just write a book because it doesn't take anything for me to do that. Plus, I have all this information. So I go back to that interview that I had start here in the corner. That interview blew the whole top off of everything. That was an
Wow.
interview that she did. None of the interviews were dated. So I don't know when she did it. It's just a hard copy of the interview. In this interview, he told her he was a Medicaid fraud control unit investigator for the state of Massachusetts. He was also an attorney. He was no longer working for the government. So, of course, he's free to tell her everything. And he told her everything. He told her that they started in the late 70s going after nursing homes. When they felt like they cleaned up all of the nursing homes, they started going after doctors. And when they started, the reason that they started going after doctors was because Reagan and Bush, neither one of them liked Medicaid. And they resented that they had to pay Medicaid out to poor and elderly Medicaid patients. So a guy named Richard Cousereau, who was the head of the Office of Health and Human Services, came up with this scheme. And the scheme was specifically to get rid of Black doctors and to force Black doctors to repay the government for the money that they paid out for Medicaid patients.
Oh my gosh.
They were taking regulatory violations like anything like a clerical error, like a doctor forgot to sign something, or a coding error, or coming into a doctor's office and his records are out of order, the records are not kept in the best order, or they're not in alphabetical order. They were raising those things to a level of theft and using that as a pretext to come after them. So it would look like this. They would come to your office and they would say, Dr. Franklin, we noticed that your files are not in order. This is a violation and it's going to cost you $75,000. We'll be back on Monday to pick up the check. You
What?
don't have $75,000. So guess what? You're going to prison. By the time it all shakes out and you end up in court, they have extrapolated that $75,000 to millions of dollars. So now do you not only not have the $75,000, you don't even have enough money to hire an attorney to represent you. So you are definitely going to prison. So now you're going to prison.
Into a federal prison?
Yes, ma'am. You have a
Oh my God.
felony on your record, so you ain't gonna practice again. You can kiss your practice goodbye. And you got all this money that you owe. the government. And they were doing this over and over and over and over again. And they're still doing it to this day. One of the interviews that I did with a man in here was a Harvard trained doctor. He was from Harvard. His name, gosh, it's escaping me just because I said his name, it'll come to me. He was one of the doctors that's in the book. And that's what they literally did to him. They came to his office to try to shake him down. And when he said, I don't have the money to give you, I don't owe you that, I'm not going to give it to you, they ruined him, put him in prison. He lost everything he had. He was homeless, everything, just lost everything. They did that to so many doctors for years and years and years. They have been doing that, coming after them for Medicaid fraud. And so that's what started. This started all those years ago. Back in, this must have been like the mid 80s when they started this. And they have been doing this ever since. And it's
Mhm.
been working like a charm. Now they use more sophisticated means like AI, predictive policing, all kinds of surveillance tools, and they use those to come after doctors and to cherry pick through their records. Well, this just sweetens the pot for them because it means that they can come after an even wider variety of doctors. Now they can come after any doctor they want. They were just doing the black doctors to start off with. They do some black docs, some white doctors. Some white doctors do get caught in the snare. In fact, I have a couple of white doctors who were a part of the documentary and a part of the interview process that I did for the book. So they do some white doctors, they get them as well, but most of them are doctors of color, and the overwhelming ones are black doctors.
This is just criminal. I know of two doctors whose names I'm not going to call, who were local doctors. Everything you're saying happened to them. They were working and serving the Black community,
Mhm.
you know, not the northern part of Atlanta, but the southern part of Atlanta. And they were brought up on federal charges, uh, overprescribing pain meds. One, I think both of them were brought up on the same charge. Holistic doctors, absolutely amazing doctors. And they went after them. The
Mhm.
federal government went after them. And
Yep.
so I'm not sure. I think one may be not practicing himself, but working under another physician
Mhm.
because he's no longer, I think, able to practice on his own. But it was crazy. And put
Mhm.
them in federal prison.
They've
They put
done
them
this to
in federal
so many
prison.
doctors,
One was a Black
ruined them.
female and one was a Black male. And I just said, this has to stop. I mean, I'm sitting here now seething. I'm seething because I know what they're trying to do to us on so many different fronts. They're trying to really destabilize our community on so many different levels.
Mhm.
And because people who are throughout the African diaspora, we're very resilient and we bounce back.
Mhm.
And what's happening now is people going back to the ways of the ancestors. You can't regulate what I do with my herbs in my garden. You can't
Right.
stop that. Folk
Mhm.
medicine. You can't stop that. They don't
Yeah.
know what to do with that because people are now going back to the ways of the ancestors and they're seeing the game. Because I know when I was growing up, people didn't go to the doctor. You know, your mom had these folk remedies. She
Mhm.
put Vicks on your chest, put a
Mhm.
hot compress
Mhm.
on your chest. You drank some tea and went out
Mhm.
into the field and picked some herbs that if we'll pick the ones that are poisonous. And within a day or two, you were back on your feet. They
Yeah.
gave you castor oil twice a year to clean you out. I
Mhm.
remember that with
Mhm.
a cube of sugar, and it worked. So we have to really understand this is a playbook that these
Yes.
people have. And they didn't just come up with this. They've been
It's
working on this.
literally a playbook.
Oh, it's a playbook on
Oh
all
yeah.
levels, on
Oh
all
yeah.
levels. And for people who think that racism isn't alive and well, and that classism isn't alive and well, and that this caste system isn't alive and well, they are being very, very naive.
Very.
However, people like you. What you have done is so amazing. I can't wait for the documentary to come out. Because
Oh,
I
I
read,
can't wait for it to come out either. Let me tell you something else that will probably infuriate you. Not only were they doing this, do you know that they were offering merit pay bonuses to the Medicaid fraud investigators for the number of doctors that they could take down? They were getting paid extra money for the number of doctors that they could take down. Yes. All that stuff was in those boxes that she sent me, that Dr. Barbara Reynolds sent me. All of it was in there. I had no idea when my partner and I first started with doing these interviews, a lot of the doctors would get kind of emotional during the interviews and they would ask me, "Well, do you know why they're doing this? Why does it seem like nobody wants Black doctors?" And I kept saying, "I don't know. I don't know why this is happening." They were asking me, and at the time I didn't know. It wasn't until I started going through those boxes and reading and then reading the interviews. And there were other interviews that she did with other doctors. And it was so ironic that each interview would confirm what the other interview was saying. Like I would read one and it would say the same thing as the other one. It was just all of it was just confirming what all of it, the whole thing. They were paying them extra for the number of doctors that they could bring down. They were getting paid extra. And they're still doing this to this day. I
oh
have
yeah,
a dear doctor friend who I got one that reported to prison in November, who gave me a lot of his research material before he left and went in. In fact, a lot of it is in the book. I reference him a lot in the book, Dr. Neil Anand. And one of the doctors who was just sentenced about 2 weeks ago, Dr. Sanjeev Kumar. Dr. Kumar is in this book and he's going to be participating at the book signing. He'll be reporting to prison probably later this year for 20 years.
what?
20 years. 20 years. He was a gynecologist who treated his the most of his patient pool were Black women. He treated Black women who had a form of some kind of cancer. He's a gynecologist and a cancer surgeon. And I can't say the name of the procedure, hysteroscopy. I can't say the name of it. But anyway, he would have to use these single-use devices when he would do these vaginal exams on the patients. So you can only use the device one time. You can't use it more than once. So they couldn't find anything to get him on. So the prosecutor, listen to me clearly, the prosecutor, not any of his patients, not one of his patients, not one, nary a one, ever came forth and said that Dr. Kumar tried to rape him. The prosecutor said that he was raping his patients with these single-use vaginal devices, that he was taking them out of the trash can and reusing them over and over on patients. Highly trained, highly educated, just a very elite physician with an impeccable record. Patients were coming to see him from other countries because his reputation was so impeccable. They have destroyed him, and he is furious. He's like, they should not be allowed to do this, to just make up stuff. And then he said when he went to court that the judge told him that, judge told his attorney that the government didn't need to prove whether he did it or not, only that there was a possibility that he did it. A court of law. He didn't need to prove it. I mean, that's what court is,
Yes.
proving stuff and
You're
facts and evidence. You got to
supposedly,
be, yeah.
yeah, you're
They didn't
innocent
need to
until
prove
proven
it,
guilty.
only that there was a possibility that he could have done it.
So
Ruined his standing.
how are you going to counter that inane statement about a possibility?
A
Anything is
possibility.
a possibility. Anything is a possibility.
Exactly.
That's not even a factual kind of
Yeah.
assertion. That's just
Yeah, he'll be at the book signing on Sunday, so I'm sure he's definitely going to talk about it because he is angry, and as he should be. All of them are. In fact, that's why we wanted to do the documentaries to begin with, because many of these doctors had had these terrible things that had happened to them, had their lives ruined, turned upside down, and never had a chance to speak about what happened to them. Never had a chance to talk about it, the damage that it did to them, how it ruined their lives and their families and their marriages and their finances. They have been stripped of everything. And if that's not bad enough, what the government was doing, there's also something called sham peer reviews that hospitals do. And these are typically done against Black doctors, usually very proficient, very elite doctors. Um, their peers are usually jealous of them for some reason or another, and they start an inquiry against the doctor. They could start one, from what I understand, it could be anything. They can say, I saw Professor, um, I'm sorry, Professor Franklin put her patient's Band-Aid on upside down, and that will start an inquiry against you. And when they start an inquiry against you, guess what happens at the end of the inquiry? Hmm. You don't work there no more. But that's not the worst part. You want to know what the worst part is? They report you to the National Practitioners Data Bank. Do you know what happens to a doctor once they're reported to the National Practitioners Data Bank? That permanently ends their career in medicine. They can never
Mm.
ever in life practice again. So somebody can be jealous of you because you do something better than them, or they think you do it better than them, or they just don't like you because you drive a Porsche and they drive a BMW, whatever it is, whatever. And they can start an inquiry against you and get you fired and report you to the National Practitioners Data Bank and end your career. That career that you studied and worked for so hard, that all the money you paid to go to medical school, all that you did to get where you are, and somebody can just not like you and ruin you like that.
This is so painless. I mean, I'm sitting here with invisible tears on my heart for people, because I know quite a few people who are doctors, because I was in charge of multicultural affairs at Harvard Medical School, responsible for recruiting underrepresented students to go to Harvard who later became doctors. And I also helped the dental school. And just to see all the time and effort and the pain and the racial injustices that they experienced while going to medical school, doing
Mm-hmm,
their residencies, doing their internships, putting their
mm-hmm,
lives on hold
mm-hmm.
for these soulless beings to come in to wreck them, to try to destabilize our communities. But I'm not religious at all, but I'm very spiritual. Karma awaits people,
Mm-hmm.
and there's nothing you can do to stop it. What you put out will come back, like Celia said in the Color Purple. She said, "What you have thought, what you've done to
Mm-hmm.
me, has already been done to you."
Mm-hmm.
Also, they think they're riding high now,
Yeah.
but karma is already at their doorstep.
Yep.
A lot of things are happening that they will not be able to escape. For
Yep.
you to put that kind of energy, effort, and malice into controlling people who are melanated, who don't look like you, and who are underserved, who only desire to have the best for their communities,
Mm-hmm.
and you trying to cut them off at the knees, and people say that inequities don't exist. They need to sit and talk to these doctors.
Yeah.
Some people who don't believe that this exists, right? And we're living it and we're experiencing it. And I'm so grateful to you for the courage, the insight, the vision. And I, like you, got the download from Spirit that said, okay, you have to do this Great Lives on the Rise.
Mm-hmm.
And the wouldn't let up, just like you. That's when you know that's a divine assignment. That's when you know that the universe has conspired the creator of the universe conspired to help you. And no
This was
matter how many,
definitely a divine
oh yeah,
assignment.
oh yeah. And no
I
matter
would
how
not
many
have chosen
no's,
this.
yeah, the same thing for me, because I had my own Blog Talk radio show and I was walking away from it. Spirit said, nope, this is another kind of assignment. And so when, as they say, when the creator of the universe, God, Yahweh, whatever name you want to give the being, is for you, who can be against you?
Hmm.
They can try to block it, but they can't stop it, Angela.
Hmm.
They can't stop it.
Yeah,
This podcast is global.
yeah,
You see? And my dear friend, Reverend D, told you about me. So to get you out, and you're going to Hillside, which has an amazing, amazing uh, parishioner base. So it's getting out there. They can't stop it.
yeah.
They can't stop it. So before we go further, I would like for people, because by the time this airs, you will be at you would have been at Hillside. We're airing at 7 o'clock on Sunday. So, but I want them to get your contact information, your book information, information about the documentary. Let's give them all of that, your social media handles, and if you have the book ready so that they can see it.
Yeah, I do. Here it is. Can you see it?
Okay, go back a little. This is kind of
Back some
blurred.
more. Can you see it?
Uh yeah,
Uh,
I don't know why it's blurred.
I don't know why it's blurred either.
Now it's coming through a little clearer.
See it better? Okay.
Legalized, legal.
Legalized extortion, how the government hunted Black doctors for treating poor and elderly Medicaid patients. It's
Okay, repeat the
available on
title.
Amazon.
Repeat the
It is
title.
available. The title is Legalized Extortion.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and that's the subtitle, How the Government Hunted Black Doctors for Treating Poor and Elderly Medicaid Patients. And there's a cover of there's a doctor on the cover, and he's got on one side, he looks like he has on a stethoscope, and on the other side, he has handcuffs. So you can't, he's just got both hanging around his neck. Um, and this is the book. It's available on Amazon. The price is
Your
21.
name.
My
Give me
name
your
is Angela Greene.
okay,
The book
spell
is
it.
$21.
Okay, spell
Um,
your name for them.
Angela, Angela, Greene, Greene, Green with the E on the end. So it
Okay.
is available on Amazon. You can find it on there. It's $21. Um, what else can I tell you? My website is legalizedextortion.net. You can also go on there. Let's see.
Can you spell everything out for people?
Legalized, Legalized, legalized extortion, Extortion, legalized extortion. Um, my social media on Facebook is Legalized Extortion, the book, and on Instagram it's Legalized Extortion, the book. I'm also on Substack and on Blue Sky under my name, Angela Greene. I post a lot of my stuff on there, so you can find me on either one of those as well. Let me tell you about this name. I know we were talking last night about the name Legalized Extortion, and I told you that I would tell you where this name came from. So, when my partner and I first started doing the documentary, he came up with the name Hunted Healers, and we were going to go with that name because we both like that name. I was like, oh, that's perfect. But when I started reading through those interviews, the guy that she did the interview with, Donald Zarendow, who was giving her all of the information, he basically said, well, he said, not basically, he did say, he said, what they're doing to these doctors is nothing but legalized extortion. So I just took the words right out of his mouth because I was like, that's a perfect name, legalized extortion. That's what he
Mhm.
called it. He called it that and said that that was what they were doing. And that another one of the reasons why they were doing it is because they did not want Black doctors. They didn't want there to be Black doctors. They wanted Black doctors to work for the government. They didn't want entrepreneurial medicine. So everything that they could do to keep Black doctors from being able to practice, um, either by stripping them, by imprisoning them and stripping them of their license and ruining them and ruining their name and reputation, or just forcing them to only be able to work for the government, which most of them were not willing or ready or able to do. They didn't want to do that because they became doctors because they wanted to work for themselves. But they didn't
Mhm.
want that. They wanted to control how much money they make and how much they got paid and when they worked. But most of the doctors did not want that.
Mhm.
So that's where the name legalized extortion came. It came right out of the horse's mouth. And the horse was a man named Donald Zarendow who gave Barbara Reynolds all of the details about what was happening. And he knew because he was one of them. He worked for the government and he knew how it worked. There was also another doctor that did an interview with her. Well, no, his interview was not with her. It was an interview that I got part of. I got the first like 14 pages of the interview are missing, but I have like the 15 through the ending of the interview. And I'm not sure who the interview was with, but his name was Dr. Howard Fishman. He was another one who told a lot of details about what and how the government was working. He was the one that found out about the merit pay that they were getting. So there are a lot of details in this story. And there's a ton of documentation that I got. So as the young people say, I have receipts. I
Mhm.
have lots of receipts because all of that information that she saved all those years, she sent it to me. And when I
Great
finished with the book,
information.
I know she said, all these years I felt so bad because I felt like I failed the doctor. She said, I always felt like I failed them because I felt like I didn't do enough to help them. I said, but no, you did exactly what you were supposed to do. You did everything that you were supposed to do because you didn't know that I was coming along all these years later. I didn't know that I was coming along. I didn't know that we were going to intersect at some point and that you were going to give me your information. So I wrote the book based off the information that she gave me, and I also used excerpts from my interviews that I did in the documentary. So I took parts of my excerpts from my interviews. So in the parts of the book where you hear the actual doctors talking and telling what happened, that's them talking, because that's them from their interviews that they did. She said, I can't believe you were able to take all that and synthesize that and put that together in a book. I can't believe you did that. I said, well, I did. You gave it to me. I read it and I just started putting the pieces together. It's like a giant puzzle.
Yeah. That is so amazing on so many different fronts. You are the Earth Angel, Angela
Oh,
Greene. You
wish
and
I felt
our
like an earth angel.
no, no, no. Listen, listen, listen. We as melanated Caucasian women sometimes have a hard time accepting our kudos. I'm giving them to you and to Dr. Barbara Reynolds
Thank you.
because you have done something that is going to help open the eyes of people who don't believe that these things exist, who believe that we're being hypersensitive. I'm not talking about people who don't look like us. I'm talking about skin folk
Mm-hmm.
who would challenge you. Oh no, that didn't happen. You're making that up. Oh no, no, no. So it's not even to convince them, it's to expose what has happened to the rest of us out here who desire to have the information. For you to put in countless hours of your time for which you were not paid, I commend you. I
Thank you.
appreciate you. I
Thank
so
you.
appreciate you. I so appreciate Dr. Barbara Reynolds. Because you guys could have looked the other way, like so many people do. We have people now who are half my age who are billionaires looking the other way and selling us out. And they
Mm-hmm.
don't have to. And you did this on your own time, but you had that presence, just like I did. When the creator of the universe speaks in your ear and you don't listen, it keeps coming. It keeps
Yeah,
coming. It keeps coming. And you were appointed
I
because
was.
the creator knew 30 to 40 years later, I'm going to have this beautiful soul who's courageous enough, who cares enough, who's tenacious, who's a journalist, who has journalistic expertise to bring this forth to the public. And I'm going to have her connect with a Reverend D who knows Professor Jamila, who's out of the box. I'm out of the box, and who is going to really, really put this forth in front of people. I so appreciate you for doing this.
Thank you. Thank
Yeah,
you.
yeah, because this could have been time that you could have used for your family or other uh, events, but you chose to heed the calling. You were beckoned.
I
So
was
when the
definitely
Creator
back.
beckons us, we should listen. Most of the times we do, some of the times we don't, but you listened. I listened. And when you listen, you don't have to do anything. Everything falls into place because
Yeah.
they were just waiting for you. The
Yes.
ancestors were just waiting for this. She's the one.
Hmm.
She's
Yeah,
the
my
one.
mother likes to tell me, she said, everything that you have ever done in your life has prepared you for this. She said, God had his eyes on you a long time ago because you have always been a fighter and you have always been an advocate. So God
Yeah.
had you handpicked from day one. He knew that you were the one because this is you.
Yes.
I didn't know, I had no idea. I didn't know that, all along while I was doing this story and learning more about it, I never knew it was going to lead to this. And I think
Yes.
that the reason why God kept urging me to get started on the documentary was so that I could get to Barbara Reynolds. Otherwise I would never have known her. I never would have known why this was happening. We would have had the documentary to just put up and share the doctor's stories, which are great, and to give them a platform to talk about what they wanted to talk about. But this blows the roof off of it because it tells why it was happening. And they weren't
Mhm.
just doing this to doctors, they were doing it to dentists, and they were also doing it to pharmacists as well.
Oh,
Black
yeah.
dentists and pharmacists were also getting it. So they were getting anybody that they saw, I guess, as a threat to their own success. It was
Hmm.
whatever they could do to knock them out, knock them out so they didn't have to worry about the Black people. That's what they did. And that's
Hmm.
what they're still doing. But now we know.
We know this
Now
is
we
nothing
know.
but legalized genocide.
And that's
This is
another good word, legalized genocide.
legalized. This is legalized genocide. Okay. I'm
Absolutely.
very clear, because of our empowerment now. This machine is so threatened. If we were as disenfranchised and as uh, uh, worthless and clueless as they claim, why spend all of this energy, time, and money
To
to get
destroy
rid of
us.
Voter Rights Act and
Mhm.
all of these things,
Mhm.
dismantling everything? But you know
Right.
what? We've survived worse than this. We came out of that institution, the horrific institution called slavery. We
Yeah.
survived that. So we're surviving this too. We have that as the pretext to let us know what had happened. So
Hmm.
it can't happen again because our eyes are wide open and we understand. And our
Yeah.
eyes are on the prize, which is to stay woke. That's the word they hate. To stay woke, to stay empowered, and to remain resilient. Yes.
Yes.
Oh, I am so pleased. And in our last couple of minutes, what would you like to leave with the listening audience? And you know what, Angela? This is my title for you. This is my title for you. The honorary Dr. Angela Greene. Okay? This is a title coming from the Most High and from the ancestors. We're not connected to their Western institutions. You understand? This is the title that the ancestors are bestowing upon you. And
Oh,
we're
that's
talking about
wonderful.
within their institutions and all that other stuff. We're talking about from Mother Gaia, from the earth, and from the places that matter, from our
Well, I
indigenous group.
receive it.
Yes,
I receive it
yes,
wholeheartedly. And
yes.
one of the doctors, because I'm quite, close to a lot of the doctors who are participating in the book, but one of them in particularly loves to jokingly call me Dr. Green. Sometimes he'll call me that, and I just laugh. I just think it's so funny. I said, you know what? That's what I want for this. I want an honorary doctorate degree, so somebody needs to give me one. But he
And I
teases
just
me
did.
with that. You did, so I
And
I finally
I
got
just
it.
bestowed it on you with the collar. Did you see me? Okay, with the ancestral collar,
Oh my
Dr. Green.
goodness. Well,
Okay.
I
And
receive it.
you
Thank
can
you.
turn your tassel to the other side. Okay, I just did that. I just did that on behalf of the ancestors. I just
Well,
did
I
that.
appreciate it. I receive it. Thank you. What I would like to leave your listeners with, particularly those in the Black community, is that I want you to know that what is happening to the Black doctors is not something that's just happening to them, it's happening to all of us. Because the further erosion of Black doctors that we have leaves our health with a gaping hole in it because
Yes,
we
yes,
know, as you were speaking at the top of the show, about some of the things that we have some historical things that we have seen happen to Black people. Those kinds
yes,
of things will continue to happen and will happen again and again and again when we don't have access to doctors who look like them. There have been
yes,
studies that have said that Black people get better care from doctors who look like them. The Black
yes,
doctors that I have spoken with have said they have better relationships with their patients who look like them. They said,
yes.
I can go to an older Black woman with high blood pressure and I can go in the room and I can say, all right, Grandma, your blood pressure is a little high. You need to lay off them ham hocks and those greens. He said, I can say that to a Black. I can say that. And she knows
Yeah.
that I'm coming to her like a grandson. I'm coming to her that way. He said, I can't go to no older white woman and say that to her. She'll try to have me fired. He said, but I
Mhm,
can say that to an older Black woman or to an older Black man, and they know that I'm coming to them in love and I'm telling them something that they need to know. So
mhm.
when we don't have access to doctors who look like us, some of the things that we have already began to see happen, especially in maternal health care, with
Oh,
how
yes.
Black women are treated in maternal health care, we'll see more of that. We'll see that happening more and more and more all over. So we have to do a better job of taking care of ourselves and be mindful of what we're doing. We need to watch what we eat, drink more water, take better walks.
Yes.
We need to do all of that. Like you said, return to what the ancestors were doing. Because you were
Yes.
saying what my mother has said. She said when we were young, we didn't go to the doctor. Where was a doctor? When we lived on a plantation. No, your grandmother, gave you something and you were better in the morning. They gave you whatever
Yeah.
you needed and you were all better. So we're
Exactly.
going to have to return to that because pretty soon we're not going to have access to doctors who look like us. And that's going to be a problem. That's
Mm-hmm.
going to be a real problem for me because I do intentionally seek out doctors who are Black and especially
Yes.
women.
I do too. I do
If
too.
I can't tell if they're Black, then I definitely want a woman. And I'm
Mhm.
trying to see if her name is Shantae, Tamika, Yolanda.
Yes.
I'm looking for,
Yes.
a name that I think, okay, that might be a Black
And
doctor.
oh yes. Yes. I do
I'm
this.
looking
I
for a
do the
name like,
same thing. I do the
yeah.
same thing. And one other caveat too. This thing in terms of having access to Black doctors doesn't only apply to people who are underprivileged or underserved. Serena Williams almost died in
Yes.
childbirth.
Yes.
And I'm like, Serena, and you still don't have a Black doctor? She almost died,
Yeah.
given in childbirth with her first child.
Mm-hmm.
So celebrities
Yeah.
need to pay attention. Just
Yeah.
because you have money doesn't mean that the people who don't look like you have your best interest. That was
Exactly.
a known case. She
Yes.
almost died.
That's right. And it doesn't mean that the doctors that look like her are not proficient to take care of her either.
Exactly.
It does not
Exactly.
mean that. If that were the case, then we wouldn't have sham peer reviews where other jealous doctors are not trying to get rid of the Black ones because we don't like them because they outshine us for some reason. And this is no
Exactly.
shade to my white doctor friends out there, the white doctors in general. This is no shade to you. We're just keeping it real and just
Yes.
telling the truth. This is what it
Yes.
is. But this is no shade. I'm not trying to throw shade on anybody. So please don't get
Yes.
mad at me, white doctors. I'm just keeping it real and just saying what it
Mhm.
is. is, and
The
that's
truth
how it
is the
is.
truth.
So
But the
that's
truth
what
is the truth.
is the truth, So I just want us to realize that we have got to do a better job of taking care of ourselves because it might not be too long. And hey, I don't know if you saw this, but about 3 weeks ago, the Trump administration came out with a story that said that they're getting ready to come after some people for healthcare fraud in Democratic-led states, and some of those people are doctors. Well, who do you think they're coming after first? See if you can guess. Yeah, the black ones. So they've already said that they're just saying out loud what they've been doing all along. They never stopped coming after them, but they're just saying it out loud. Look, we're going to come after the black doctors and ruin them for healthcare fraud. So they're just saying it again that this is what we're going to do, but that's what they always been doing. They never stopped.
Yeah, like I said, I know two excellent black doctors. One is a female, one is a male, but they went after for fraud, and they went to prison for a few years,
Hmm.
which was a shame. But
Hmm.
we've run out of time, and this is so amazing. I'm going to have you on our Great Lives on the Rise coffee chat, which is a live Zoom, more intimate kind of setting. So, audience, okay, I'm giving you a heads up. We have that once every month on the fourth Thursday is live, and you can only access it if you come through Great Lives on the Rise and know how to access that information. But we're going to have the very prominent Dr. Angela Greene on, giving us the real information about what's going on in healthcare regarding the Black community. I so appreciate you, and I so thank you for sharing with us this invaluable information. And thank you so much, my sister. It's been an honor. It's been an
Thank you. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me. Have a good
Oh,
day.
thank you. And for all of you, remember, Gray Lives on the Rise. We're here every Sunday from 7 to 8 p.m. And if you miss us, you can always look at the replay. And we will have the replay also uploaded on Spotify audio, Spotify video, YouTube, our YouTube channel, and LinkedIn and Facebook. So until next time, beloveds, be safe, take care, and buy Dr. Angela Gree's book. Go to Amazon. Legalized Extortion. Angela
Extortion.
Greene, Greene. Okay. For those of you
Yes.
who have book clubs, this is your next book club book and topic. And when the documentary comes out, you're going to definitely be part of that. So until next time,
Thank
beloveds,
you.
thank you so much, and we appreciate you.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us for this episode of Gray Lives on the Rise, being brought to you by Jamila Scents, which is the product line of Oyende Enterprises. Jamila Scents is a 100% natural aromatherapy line that heals the mind, body, and soul. This episode of Gray Lives on the Rise was intended to uplift you, to inspire you, and to motivate you. Please tell all of your friends, family members, and anyone you know who's 50 plus, who's living a vibrant life and interested in doing more and enjoying life even to its fullest. So thank you, and please subscribe, like, and comment on this video and all our videos. Thank you, and until next time, until our next podcast, namaste and be well.